Happy Homebrew Wednesday, everyone. No brewing footage today, but I just wanted to give an update on the projects I have going around here. I recently had my buddy over, and we had a bit of a blending session with some of the wild ale / sour projects I've had going on. And I have 2 3-gallon fermenters. One has a Flanders style red ale, which was all Roselaire blend from Wy'East. The second was an all extract beer with dregs from Cantillon and Driefonteinen. And then I had 3 1-gallon jugs. If you remember that, I did a turbot mash, pitched 2 types of Brett. One of the Bretts didn't take off, so I added dregs to that beer. And we sat down and blended all 3. The 3 1-gallon jugs of the Brett, it was Brett Brooks, and Brett Lambicus. And one of them, I can't remember which one off the top of my head. I think it was Brooks. Didn't start. The one where I put a bunch of dregs in tastes great. It's got some nice funkiness and nice lemony tartness to it. One of the ones just tastes really watery and not really that good, so we're going to toss that out. The remaining beers I have, I'm going to blend in a little bit of the 3-gallon sour blend into the Flanders, kind of tarten it up. The Flanders is pretty nice. It's got good vinous type notes because I put some oak-soaked or wine-soaked French oak chips into the beer. And it's got some nice Flanders characteristics that you like. And it's got a little bit of funk, a little bit of that sour sort of cherry note to it. And I think a little bit of more lemony tartness, blend in some lighter beer will kind of work with that. And then the other rest of the 3 gallons plus the 2 1-gallon jugs are going to be blended in for another beer. So I got to start bottling up some sour beers here soon. So I got to kind of work out logistics of that. What I'm going to end up doing is pitching some champagne yeast with some corn sugar for carbonation. And I'm gonna cork those up. So I got to kind of figure out the situation. I can borrow a corker. I don't have one, but I need to figure out size of bottle, size of corks, all that, and get those into a bottling bucket and going. So that's coming together. And I am currently drinking a sample of my bourbon barrel stout. It's been in the barrel probably close to 5 months now. And it's pretty bourbony. Good oak, a little bit of vanilla. Heavy on the bourbon. Maybe a little too heavy. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to blend this one back with some fresh stout. Unfortunately. Maybe I could have took out sooner. But it tastes pretty good as is. I just think it needs a little bit more of that base beer to add a little bit more body to it. So it's not going to be 100% barrel aged beer, but I kind of like where it's going. And you can really tell with the amount of bourbon that's in it how thinned out this beer is. And that's just something I experienced with a lot of bourbon barrel aged beers. They tend to thin out if you get really wet barrels with a good amount of bourbon in there. And this one can use a little bit of body by probably blending in, I don't know, maybe like 10% a base Imperial Stout in there. Just kind of give it some fresher flavors to it. So I kind of like where it's going, and I'm going to have to do that and get this bottled up. Other projects I have going, I did a Farmhouse Ale, which was some Brett Trois that I grew up. I pitched in some of the White Labs Lactobacillus, which I haven't heard good things about it, and I didn't really tarten up kind of how I like it. And I added just a little bit of some Saison yeast 3 in there as well, just to have a little bit of Saccharomyces in there to help ferment. But I just took a gravity sample of that. It's down to about 10.075 because I have that high gravity or precise hydrometer, so it's in between 7 and 8. So it's nice and dry. I'm going to let it go a little bit longer. It's starting to develop a little bit of funkiness, which I hope it gets a little bit more funky, and I'll keg that up and have that ready to go. And I recently brewed up a Dry Irish Stout the other day. First time doing that, I used the Gordon Strong cold steeping method, where you take your dark grains, you mill them, you kind of mill them. I milled them twice through, got them really crushed up, and I cold steeped them with some filtered water. And I did that ahead of time, a couple days ahead, and took that, put it into the last 2 minutes of the boil. Other than that, it was just your typical like British Pale pale malt and some flake barley. That was all in the mash, and then the roasted barley and a little carafa went into the cold steeping. And combine that, color looked good, it's fermenting away. In fact, made it a little bit of a mess using the traditional Irish ale yeast for it. So that brew day went well. I actually overshot my gravity and had to add some distilled water to get the gravity down to where I wanted it, because I wanted it to be mid to low 4%. You know, I didn't want it to get too close to 5, which is kind of where I was at with the original gravity. So brew day went well on that one, and hopefully that beer turns out well. I haven't done Dry Irish Stout since I was extract brewing, so it's been a long time, and hopefully it will blow Guinness out of the water. Other updates, I bottled up my barley wine. That's tasting pretty good for being fairly young. And I bottled up my double IPA, which is kind of pointless. Hated to do that, but I needed to do that so I can get some bottles out to some of you. And I entered in a competition recently. If you're familiar with the newer San Diego breweries, there's a new one called Modern Times Beer. They're down in Point Loma area, San Diego, and they do a monthly homebrew competition. So it's unlimited entries, doesn't matter the style, it's not a BJCP competition, they just go with whatever beer they like the best. So I had 3 beers around. I did my double IPA, my barley wine, and then my Russian Imperial Stout that I brewed up almost 2 years ago. It was loosely based on Cape Grape. And that beer actually ended up winning, and the double IPA came in 3rd. So I'll be brewing up at some point in 2014 the Imperial Stout down on their pilot system. They have a 25 gallon pilot system. So we'll be doing a batch down there at some point, and I'll let you guys know. Maybe try to bring the camera along, shoot some footage of that. And of course, I can show you the inside of their brewery and their tasting room, which is tasting room is very unique. One of the more unique tasting rooms in San Diego County for sure. So that's the updates with me. Hope everyone had a good holidays. And we'll say cheers, and we'll see you again.